winners? Let the pros show you how to make money. General Manager Al DeMarco, a regular contributor on Fox Sports, MSNBC, and Comcast Sports TV, brings over 25 years of handicapping experience to the table. CEO Steve Budin, the author of Bets, Drugs, and Rock and Roll, is the man responsible for creating the online betting industry. Together, they lead PickNation.com, your #1 source for winners.
Most of the season, the underdogs have had their way in Las Vegas, making bettors very poor, making sports books very rich. But last weekend, the favorites bit back as the Chalks went 10-4 against the spread. But it's all cyclical, guys. I've been doing this for 25 years. I can tell you at the end of the season, the favorites are the underdogs. One of them will be 5 or 8 games over 500. But ultimately, it doesn't matter whether you're on a favorite or you're on a dog, whether you're a dog player normally or you like laying the points. All that matters is whether or not the game you are betting today is a winner. And that's why you're watching this show. Hi, everyone. Al DeMarco here, and joining me via Skype, Steve Budin, and this is the Countdown to Kickoff program. We are joining you for the 6th consecutive season on FoxSports.com, also being broadcast nationally on satellite, thanks to Sports Time Ohio out of Cleveland. And this is the only nationally televised program that breaks down all of your top college and pro football games every single weekend from a point spread perspective. As I mentioned earlier, I have been a handicapper for over 25 years. Steve, of course, former bookmaker, the guy who created what you now know as the offshore sportsbook betting industry. And Steve, one of the first games we're going to talk about is one of the most interesting games on the card, the New York Giants taking on Cincinnati on the road. Last weekend, of course, the Giants blowing a 10-point fourth quarter lead, giving up 2 touchdowns to Pittsburgh, losing at home 24-20. Eli Manning having one of the worst games of his career, 125 yards passing. But now, Giants on the road against a Cincinnati team that tried its best last week against Denver, but allowed Peyton Manning to rally the Broncos for the win as their losing streak continued. And the Giants have been a money-making team on the road. Are they worthy of being a 4.5-point favorite here in a bounce-back situation?
Right. Well, first of all, let's be honest. These are two teams that are two very different types of horses, Al. The Giants are the type of horse that you see at a racetrack. The Bengals, they're like the Clydesdales that you see at Central Park. The Broncos went into Cincy last week. They met no resistance whatsoever. Now the Giants come in, maybe the best road team in the league. Why would anything be different? Remove the quarterbacks from this equation. Giants are still the better team. When you add the quarterbacks back in, they're probably 7 to 10 points better. I think this is a value here. I'm taking the Giants minus the wood.
Now, guys, if you watch the program all season long or check out my daily video reports over at PickNation.com, you know I've told you the Giants' defense has not played well this year. Oh, statistically, in terms of the league standings, they're more than mediocre. They're above average, if you know what I mean. But in key situations, they have not been able to get the job done. All season long at home, as witnessed last week by their fourth quarter collapse. Remember, it was just 2 weeks ago that they went to Dallas and blew a 23-0 lead before having to rally to beat the Cowboys and get the cover in this one. And last week, they sprung a leak defensively in terms of stopping the run. Isaac Redman, third-string running back for the Steelers, comes out of nowhere, rushes for a career-high 147 yards. The pass rush has not been what it has been in past years for the Giants as well. But again, this is a Giants team that has covered 8 consecutive road games. Giants team that's taking on a Cincinnati team. Well, I mean, what more can you say? They're a money burner, 1-7-1 against the spread their last night at home. I'm with you, Steve. I would go ahead and lay the points in this one. Matter of fact, at 4.5, I would also encourage you to go ahead and buy down the half point, making the Giants a solid 4. Spend the extra 10 to 15 cents on the dollar to get that half-point insurance in this particular game. Next game is going to be Tampa Bay and San Diego. But first, Steve, let's talk about fantasy football. Past 2 years at PickNation.com, we've been running a free fantasy football league contest. $500 total prize money. Top 20 finish in the money. And Steve, as we've often said, it's not like the fantasy leagues and the rotisserie leagues we knew from 10, 15 years ago, because this particular contest gives you instant gratification.
Right. And more people are continuing to enter each and every week because it does bring that instant gratification and that excitement. But most of all, it's absolutely free. You can enter it every single week, win the cash, but you can't lose any cash because it's absolutely free.
And guys, not only are there $500 total prize pool, but top 20 finish in the money. First place is worth $125, and you can enter for free. Just go over to picknation.com. You'll see the ads on the homepage. Click. You've got until 1 o'clock Eastern time here on Sunday to finalize your rosters. You draft a couple of quarterbacks, a couple of running backs, a few wide receivers. You've got a $100,000 bankroll, so you're playing GM. You're competing against us. You're competing about everybody else in the country. Do it now. It's run in conjunction with draftstreet.com. It's free to enter. Top 20 finish in the money at picknation.com. Our free Fantasy Football League contest, $500 in total prizes. Steve, Tampa Bay and San Diego, you know, I think a lot of people are going to look at this particular contest and say, oh, this is the Chargers' time to surge. They've always had this big push in the second half of every single season. But you know what? That was then. This is now. As we've seen so frequently, history does not repeat itself, usually in handicapping and in gambling, and I don't buy into it. I see two teams, one that's going up in Tampa Bay, one that's going down with San Diego. I don't care that the Chargers beat up a bad Kansas City team 31-13 2 Thursdays ago to snap a 3-game slide. Last road game, they lost 7-6 as a 3-point favorite at Cleveland in inclement weather. Okay, it may be sunny in Tampa, but I still think the Bucs, who are coming off the 10-point win at Oakland, they're the way to go in this game, laying the 3.5.
Absolutely, Alex. The short-term memory for gamblers that always kills them. San Diego, easy win at home last week against the Chiefs. But like you said, if you go back 2 weeks, they only scored 6 points at Cleveland. Now they're at Tampa Bay. And man, I love what's going on with this Tampa Bay team. They've taken the bravado on of their coach. They're playing that smash mouth football that he said they would play. In fact, if you look at these two coaches and these two organizations, I think they're headed in opposite directions. I just love Tampa Bay at home here.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Norv Turner, the only place he's heading is to the unemployment line. I think his days are numbered in San Diego. That's been quite evident. Listen, I know San Diego comes into this game statistically among the top 5 in the NFL in terms of stopping the run, giving up just 3.7 yards per carry to opposing running backs. But listen, the Bucs have just done a great job at running the ball. Doug Martin last week, the rookie out of Boise, 251 yards against the Raiders. And you say, okay, well, the Raiders can't stop the run. I don't care. You run for 251 yards on the road and your team rolls. That's impressive. This is another situation, 3.5 points, guys. I believe firmly that you buy down the half point when the line crosses 3, 4, 7, sometimes 10, but at 3, 4, 7, no questions asked. Spend the extra 20 cents, pay $130 instead of $110, buy Tampa Bay down to 3. It protects you because worst case scenario, they win by 3, you walk away with a push. Sometimes a push is just as good as a win. Hey, listen, guys, you want my best bet today or Steve's top-rated crew play or all the plays from all the handicappers at picknation.com? You can get them for free today thanks to the all-access pass at picknation.com. And, Steve, it's a hell of a value because you're getting $600-700 worth of action for free.
Right, and what makes it a value is you're getting our premium plays, not the picks that we make on the show. Case in point, last week on the show, I split out my games on the show, but I won my big 100-dime play on Sunday, courtesy of the Greek crew. That would have come free if you had the all-access pass.
Absolutely. I mean, that play last week, I think, cost $89, and that's the point, guys. You get a taste of what we're doing, and the reason we're doing it is because we're that confident that we put together the best group of handicappers that can make you money long-term on a consistent basis, and what better way to prove it than putting our money where our mouths are by giving you all the action for free today, the one-day all-access pass, every play, every handicapper, nothing held back, for free, no strings attached at picknation.com. Next game is going to be Denver and Carolina. I'll tell you what, Steve, Broncos, Peyton had a couple of interceptions last week, but they rallied late. They are on quite a roll here. Last 6 games are averaging about 31 points a game as Peyton has really gotten in sync with his wide receivers. And Denver today has a little extra added motivation. John Fox, of course, their head coach, was a lame duck coach with the Panthers a couple of years ago. fired by Carolina, so a little bit of revenge as he returns to the Tar Heel State today, and I think this is a cheap price for Denver. I don't care that Carolina beat Washington last week. Who said the Redskins are any good?
Right, so after Cam Newton got off to a terrible start, he's been gaining momentum the last few weeks, Al, but the problem is he's going up against Peyton Manning now, doing his best Justin Timberlake, like you said, in sync with his offensive unit. Cam Newton, man, he gets up for these games. He's a tremendous competitor. I give Denver a little bit of the edge here. I do think it's going to be lights out. I think these guys will go after each other. I think it could come down to who has the ball last. I'm going to go against you here, Al, and take the extra 4 bullets in my gun with Carolina.
Well, I'll lay it with Peyton and the Broncos against a Carolina defense that's allowing 70% pass completions at home this season to opposing quarterbacks. And plus, you look at this Denver team, you know, their 3 losses this year have come against 3 opponents that are a combined 19-4. Carolina will be lucky to have 4 wins on the season. So I'll go the other way. I will take Denver here and lay the points. Interesting game, this next one, which wraps up the first half of this week's Countdown to Kickoff program, is Baltimore and Oakland. I mean, Steve, you know, a lot of guys in this business just simply rely on ATS trends. And I've always maintained, you find me one that supports one side, I'll find you 3 that supports the other. And here's a case in point. You know, the Ravens are 5-10-1 against the spread in their last 16 games, laying 7.5 or more points, or 7 or more points. And of the Raiders' last 15 road losses, only 4 of them have come by margins of 7 or more points. What does it all mean? I don't think it means a darn thing, to be honest with you. I just think it's a bunch of numbers which sound real impressive, makes people think that handicappers know everything when they're sitting there in front of their computers and dwelling on the stats. This game comes down to personnel. I look at Oakland last week, playing at home. They couldn't stop Doug Martin in Tampa Bay, as we said earlier. He ran for 251 yards. Ray Rice has to be like a kid waiting for Christmas morning, running down the stairs to open his Christmas presents, because he knows he's going to be facing that same defense that couldn't stop Doug Martin last week, and he's going, man, I could get 168 this week easy if I just play 3 quarters.
Right, but the problem is downtown Baltimore, much more dangerous than the Baltimore defense is these days too. They can't seem to get a consistent pass rush on the opposing quarterbacks either. And bookmakers, let me tell you something, Al, bookmakers love Baltimore bettors. Ravens 1-5 against the spread the last 6. I don't know. I think 7.5 points may be too much. I'm once again going with the dog here, Oakland plus 7.5.
You know, Baltimore was my best bet last Sunday. It was my 15-dime premium selection, and I had a 3-0 sweep with my best bets last weekend. But I'll tell you what, I wouldn't ride the Ravens in this one. I don't like the game either way. If you put a gun to my head, I'd go ahead and take Baltimore. But after watching the Ravens open up the 14-0 early lead at Cleveland, then it was 14-9 at halftime, then I needed them to score the final 11 points in the final 4 minutes of the game just to get the win in the cover last week, I am off the Baltimore bandwagon. It is true they have played much, much better at home this season. I do think Rice, though, is going to have a big game, and that's key, because the longer you keep Carson Palmer off the field and against that suspect Baltimore defense, which I've told you all season, guys, stinks. It's not the Baltimore defense of old, and it has nothing to do with the fact that Ray Lewis is out of action. The fact is, the Baltimore defense is old. Injuries have only made it worse. I think Baltimore's to play, but I'm with you. If there's one game here, though, I would say that I would just skip on today's card. I wouldn't even watch. It would be Baltimore and Oakland. How's that an endorsement for you? Guys, next game as we come out of the break is going to be perhaps the best one on the entire weekend card. It's going to be that little game between the Saints and the Falcons at the Superdome, and Steve and I will be returning with part 2 of the Countdown to Kickoff program coming up for you here on FoxSports.com in just a moment.